The Golden Key. In the winter time, when deep snow lay on the ground, a poor boy was forced to go out on a sledge to fetch wood. When he had gathered it together and packed it, he wished, as he was so frozen with cold, not to go home at once, but to light a fire and warm himself a little. So he scraped away the snow, and as he was thus clearing the ground, he found a tiny golden key. Thereupon he thought that where the key was, the lock must also go, and dug around the ground and found an iron chest. If the key does but fit it, thought he, no doubt there are precious things in that little box. He searched, but no keyhole was there. At last he discovered one, but so small was it that it was hardly visible. He tried it, and the key fit it exactly. Then he turned it once round, and now he must wait until he has quite unlocked it and opened the lid, and then we shall learn what wonderful things were lying in that box. The end. Sharing joy and sorrow. There was once a tailor who was a quarrelsome fellow, and his wife was good, industrious, pious, and could never please him. Whenever she did, he was not satisfied, but grumbled and scolded and knocked her about and beat her. As the authorities at last heard of it, they had him summoned and put in prison in order to make him better. He was kept for a while on bread and water, and then set free again. He was forced, however, to promise not to beat his wife any more, but to live with her in peace, and to share joy and sorrow with her, as married people ought to do. All went well for a time, but then he fell into his old ways, and was surly and quarrelsome, and because he dared not beat her, he would seize her by the hair and tear it out. The woman escaped from him and sprang out into the yard, but he ran after her with his yard measure and scissors, and chased her about, and threw the yard measure and scissors at her, and whatever else came his way. When he hit her, he laughed, and when he missed her, he stormed and swore. This went on so long that the neighbors came to the wife's assistance. The tailor was again summoned before the magistrates, and reminded of his promise. "Dear gentlemen," said he, "I have kept my word. I have not beaten her, but I have shared joy and sorrow with her." "How can that be," said the judge, "when she continually brings such heavy complaints against you?" "I have not beaten her, but just because she looked so strange, I wanted to comb her hair with my hand. She, however, got away from me and left quite spitefully. Then I hurried after her, and in order to bring her back to her duty, I threw at her a well-meant admonition, whatever came readily to hand. I have shared joy and sorrow with her also, for whenever I hit her I was full of joy, and she of sorrow, and if I missed her, she was joyful, and I sorry." The judges were not satisfied with this answer, but gave him the reward he deserved. The end. The nail. A merchant had done good business at the fair. He sold his wares and lined his money bags with gold and silver. Then he wanted to travel homewards and to be in his own house before nightfall, so he packed his trunk with money on his horse and rode away. At noon he rested in a town, and when he wanted to go farther, the stable boy brought out his horse and said, "A nail is waiting, sir, in the shoe of his left hind foot." "Let it be wanting," answered the merchant. "The shoe will certainly stay on for 6 miles. I still have a lot to go. I am in a hurry." In the afternoon once more he alighted, and had his horse fed. The stable boy went into the room and said, "Sir, a shoe is missing from your horse's left hind foot. Shall I take him to the blacksmith?" "Let it still be wanting," answered the man. "The horse can very well hold out for a couple of miles which remain. I am in haste." He rode forth, but before long the horse began to limp. It had not limped long before it began to stumble, and it had not stumbled long before it fell down and broke its leg. The merchant was forced to leave his horse where it was, and unbuckle the trunk, and take it on his own back, and go home on foot. And there he did not arrive until quite late at night. "And that unlucky nail," he said to himself, "has caused all this disaster. Make haste slowly." The end.